Everyone, President Trump just announced that he will impose another 50% of tariff on Chinese goods in order to retaliate or respond to China's 34% tariff, which was a response to his 34% tariff on Chinese goods. Okay, so what's my analysis? First of all, let me be upfront. Okay, I'm highly sympathetic to many of the issues which propel President Trump's policy of hiking tariff. These issues include trade deficit, includes the revitalization of the U.S. manufacturing sector, including creating more jobs for lower and middle income Americans. I'm highly sympathetic. However, I strongly believe the President Trump's policies are counterproductive, because by imposing tariffs on China and other economies, the U.S. households will have to pay higher prices, and these higher prices will not translate into good investments, because these high prices will immediately cause inflation. Okay, higher prices or even severe inflation, which in turn will have to cause the U.S. Fed to jack up its interest rate, which will hurt the stock market and the investment. If the USA really wants, if President Trump really wants to revitalize the Americans' manufacturing sector and the jobs, the US has to do a long-term project, including beefing up US education, including opening up US immigration policy to those highly skilled engineers from India, from China, from all over the world, including taxing some of the manufacturing firms. Notice the firms, not the individuals, and then leave the tax revenue with local governments. Therefore, local governments in the US are incentivized to attract investments, manufacturing jobs and investments. All this homework has to be done. Okay, these are fundamental jobs. These are important jobs that the US has to do before doing any tariff stuff. Okay, the tariff can only work when these jobs are done. Okay, in fact, Hamilton, one of the founding fathers of the US, did a high tariff policy, but at that time the USA was highly dynamic, where the USA was positioned to catch up with the UK in industrialization, in manufacturing jobs. But by 1894-95, US already overpassed the UK. Okay, so Trump's policies are totally counterproductive, and I don't think it will work. Okay, in addition, let me add the following point. That is, today the US is still one of the world's superpowers, especially in economy and finance. And don't forget, the internationalization of US dollar is of great benefit to the US economy, okay? Because that lowers the financing cost of American firms, that also creates financial jobs, which are not only huge in number, but also very high in salary, okay? So these are benefits to the US economy. These are not liabilities of the US economy. The top economic advisor to the President Trump said the other way around, saying that this is a burden. International currency of US dollar is a burden, which is totally wrong. You cannot make a more incorrect statement than that. Okay, so my hope is that the two sides, the Chinese side and the US side, can sit down and negotiate in an honest way, and laying all the economic problems on the table. I am highly sympathetic again to US issues. I'm also, of course, I'm very much aware of Chinese issues. Our Chinese issues are equally salient. That is, we are short in consumption. We need to beef up our social security. We need to increase pension to our lowest income retirees. We need to relax or get rid of a lot of restrictions on domestic consumption. Okay, there are also lots of homework to be done on the Chinese side. But overall, I am pushing for the two sides to negotiate. If you have any comments, questions, please leave it at the bottom of this video.